Bienvenidas to Latina Literati. If you enjoy great ideas, wonderful books, and interesting people, then you've come to the right place. This is the channel for you. So welcome. And in this video, we're in Palm Springs. It's in the morning, so you hear the birds chirping, and the sun is just coming out. It'll probably be close to 100 degrees here. And as is customary on this channel, I'm going to talk to you about the indigenous people who settled here at least 5,000 years ago. The Coahuila people settled in what we know as the Coachella Valley, best known for its music festival, but thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, the Coahuila people arrived, and it is said that the person leading the group put his walking staff on the ground and water gushed out. And so there are mineral springs that the Coahuila Nation have as part of their cultural center here, where you can go and benefit from the mineral springs. And so that was one of the main reasons why settlement was available here in the Coachella Valley, because there's an underground aquifer as well as mineral springs. And so there are many, many places where you can see little bits of springs. The name says it all. Palm Springs. So there are palms everywhere, and they are also native to this area, the palm trees, and you have springs or waters. Most of the water that's used in everything from the mineral baths to the swimming pools comes from one of the largest underground aquifers in this hemisphere, at least. So the Coahuila Nation, if you know the northern states of Mexico, one of them is called Coahuila, in recognition of the huge territorial landmass that the Coahuila Nation has inhabited for millennia. Their language is of the Shoshone Ute Azteca language group, and so you can see that this is almost a bridge from what in Mexico is known as Aztlan, which is the southwest United States, all the way down to Mexico. The indigenous people were one, and linguistically that's been shown. So again, there are no borders, there are just our brothers and sisters. So in general, the Coahuila Nation here in the Coachella Valley and also in the area surrounding it was originally organized in two groups, and then those groups were organized by clans. So you belonged to a clan through your father, and you could only marry into another clan. You couldn't marry within the same clan. So that's interesting in terms of societal organization of the Coahuila people. The agua caliente, which means warm water or hot water, band of Coahuila are those that settled here in Palm Springs. And so many of the properties here, whether you live in a condo or whether you live in a home, are leased for 99 years from the Coahuila Nation, and you pay, I don't know if it's quarterly or yearly, lease payments to them. The reason why is that they were recognized as a California indigenous group, so that allowed them certain rights on the land that they settled. It's interesting that outsiders organized the Coahuila Nation as those who lived in the San Gregoro Pass, those that lived in the mountains, and those that lived in the desert. But that actually has nothing to do with the real societal organization. It just goes to show you how erroneous outsiders can be when looking at indigenous societies. The origin story of the Coahuila Nation is sung. So for thousands of years, these songs have been learned by each generation. There are in total 300 songs, and when sung from beginning to end, they tell the origin story of the Coahuila people. These songs are called bird songs, and so bird singing is something that the Coahuila people do when they gather for different ceremonies. And their origin songs speak of coming from the north and finding water here and staying here. Some people stayed in the mountains. Some groups stayed here in the valley. And so there are many, many places where you can go if you're hiking in Indian Wells, or if you're on the Palm to Pine Highway, you'll see oases. And in the oasis, there are all sorts of animals and plants that were used by the Coahuila Nation to survive in the desert, where, as we know, in the summer it can get to be 120 degrees. So in these oases, it's cooler, there's water, and there's different plant and animals that allow them to subsist in this climate. There's a lot of sacred energy here, and you can feel it. So if you're in Palm Springs, my recommendation is to go to the Coahuila Indian Cultural Center and take a look at their history and all of the things that they have brought to the Coachella Valley. It's really beautiful, quite interesting. So how do we get from the Coahuila Nation to Hollywood?
Horse, great big horse, give me a buckaroo and let me wow, wow, wow. Give me a ranch, big pair of pants, give me a gas and two and let me wow, wow.
You can guess that it was gangsters who first wanted to put casinos here in the valley, and Palm Springs said no thank you, but Cathedral City next door said absolutely. So the first casino in the Coachella Valley was actually in Cathedral City, but one of the consummate American songwriters, Irving Berlin, spent the winter in 1927 to 1928 here, and he told all his friends about it and marveled at what a wonderful winter it was in Palm Springs. And so he's credited with being one of the first, what is called here, snowbirds, those that arrive into Palm Springs from colder climates. For example, there are many, many Canadians that have second homes here so they can winter and not have to be in Canada during the winter. So there are many Canadians here that enjoy this beautiful weather during the winter season.
Why is it that some resorts are mere vacation spots, but Palm Springs is an inspiration, a habit, a way of life, in such an atmosphere of complete, carefree hospitality? Palm Springs offers accommodations to suit every purse and every personality.
So after Irving Berlin, then slowly the stars start to discover this quiet town where they can get away from Hollywood. It's just a couple of hours in those days from Hollywood, and they could spend time alone and not be bothered by press or by lots of people, because it was really a small town then. And so people like Elvis Presley and his wife Priscilla honeymooned here. Frank Sinatra loved to hang out here, and you can go to places that were owned by movie stars, and some of them have been converted into restaurants. There's just a lot to do and a lot to see. I mean, Palm Springs is a party place. Let me just begin by saying that. It helps that about 60% of the population identifies as LGBTQ, so everywhere you go, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot to do if you're a foodie and if you're not a foodie, but I'm going to share with you some of the places that we enjoy when we're here.
849 is a restaurant to people watch and to really get a sense of the energy and ambiance of some of the better eateries in Palm Springs. So you'll see here that the interior is very modern, a lot of white and pink, and the food is really good. I had the stuffed chile poblano that you see here, and it was really tasty. So highly recommend 849. Usually requires reservations. It's not really a place you could just drop in, although if it's not Friday or Saturday, you should be able to get a table as well. The second restaurant recommended is Taquila. It's upscale Mexican, and it's really gets packed, and it's really beautiful, and you see here the pictures. The last recommendation is Elmer's, and it's one of the kind of traditional places for breakfast. Their specialty is something called a German pancake, very decadent. It's a chain that is all along the west coast of the United States. I've never seen it outside of Palm Springs, but there you have it. And some of the older pictures of Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. are from the inside of the restaurant. So these are just some recommendations. There are so many restaurants, hundreds, dozens at least, that are worth trying in Palm Palm Springs, so you'll have a great time there. I came upon this laden grapefruit tree outside of the complex where we were staying, and so I decided to pick some grapefruits to bring home with me. So I borrowed a picker. I don't know if that's the exact term used for this tool, but then I picked some grapefruits in the heat of the day and brought them home, and they are so sweet. Very, very sweet, very delicious, very juicy. And you can just imagine when Orange County and all those other places were filled with citrus fruits, you could just imagine it must have been very good fruit.
This really is a valley of contrasts. You have date farms, so you have Middle Easterners that brought dates, you have camel races, and then you've got that festival on the other side of the valley. Such a variety of people that have settled here, and that leads me to my favorite part of the video, book recommendations. I'm going to start out with a book that is set in the Coachella Valley and speaks specifically to how many different types of people have settled here and the roles that they've played. There were Japanese farmers and, as I mentioned before, Middle Eastern farmers, and there have been, of course, gangsters always involved in the casinos, and you have the indigenous original people here, the Coahuila Nation, and you have lots of Hollywood and lots of glamour, and you've got the snowbirds, so a lot of people come together in Palm Springs. The first book I'm recommending is Coachella by Sylvia Ortiz Taylor, and again, check your library, it's probably there, or your local bookseller. And if not, I'll also link below Better World Books where you can buy it. And as I always like to mention, they use your purchase to leverage and then donate literacy materials to other communities. And so the next two books are, this one is La Isla de los Amores Infinitos. I mean, talk about a luscious novel. This is a page turner. Not to give it away, but basically it is the stories having to do with the three main groups that settle in Cuba, which are, of course, the African enslaved people, the Europeans, and Chinese. Most people don't know that Cuba had and has a significant Chinese population. So this is a book that I highly recommend. And again, I'll link it below in the description box. It's by Diana Chaviano, who's a well-known Cuban author, and it's really, really, really good. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm at the end of it, and I know you will too. Final book recommendation is Invierno en Madrid. It's by C.J. Sansom. Again, really interesting book. It's set in 1940, so you have all the spies, you have the post Civil War in Spain, and you've got lots and lots going on, a lot of intrigue, mystery, and also historical detail that is always interesting to read. So, highly recommend it, and again, I will link it below. Thank you so much for being with us until the end of the video. It's a joint journey. I want you to feel like estás en tu casa. Please comment what you'd like us to talk about. If there's specific topics or specific books that you recommend, please put them in the comments. I'd love to hear your recommendations as well. So thank you so much, as always, to my technical team. Y les deseo siempre mucho cariño, mucha salud y mucho amor. Thank you. Muchas gracias.